Good morning. It is a pleasure participate in this ISV Virtual Congress. Thank you to the organizers for the invitation to present our work. We'll be discussing a brief overlook of what we have done together as companies, mAbxience and Leomont, for the production of the AstraZeneca vaccine. And then we'll try to extrapolate that into a regional opportunity for vaccine manufacturing. My name is Sergio Valentinotti, and I have with me also Mr. Esteben Corley.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so I will start sharing my screen. Okay, so we have entitled this presentation, Vaccine Production in Emerging Economies, Challenges and Opportunities. As some of you may know, both companies, mAbxience and Liomont, together with AstraZeneca and with the sponsorship of Fundación Carlos Slim, have been producing for the past months the AstraZeneca vaccine for many countries in Latin America. We have the process is basically we receive the mAbxience received the viral banks and the cells from AstraZeneca. They have a facility that Esteben will describe in a moment, where they will do the cell culture and the viral expansion to produce the drug substance. This drug substance is exported into Mexico. And in Liomont, we formulate, and we do the fill and finish, plus all of the required analysis for the release of the product. We give it to AstraZeneca, and they do the international distribution. The idea is that we will be making at least 150 million doses to be distributed in several countries. We initiated this project in August 2020 when the agreement was signed. And after 9 months of tech transfer, we had our first batch of vaccines that was shipped. It is an extraordinary example of a collaboration between 3 pharmaceutical companies in 3 different countries. It was extraordinary, not only because we were always working remotely and having conversations, technical conversations and discussions with all of the collaborators in different countries, but because we are separated by almost 10,000 kilometers, and we were able to complete in a record time the technology transfer. Participation from governments from Latin America, in particular Argentina and Mexico, was fundamental for the project execution, and we will discuss why.
Thank you, Sergio. Just briefly to describe mAbxience and what we were doing. mAbxience is a biopharmaceutical manufacturing company specialized in monoclonal antibodies, and we have 3 facilities in between Spain and Argentina, and we supply antibodies to more than 50 markets worldwide, and we have an EMA approval for one of our assets, bevacizumab. But in February 2020, we opened this facility that you can see in the picture, which is an 8,000 square meter facility for cell culture. And as we all know, in March, we went into a lockdown, quite a strong lockdown in Argentina because of the pandemic, COVID. And as a company, and together with Liomont and AstraZeneca, we started thinking of what we could do to help with the regional problem with COVID and the havoc that the pandemic was causing in our population. So when in July, the opportunity of manufacturing the drug substance for AstraZeneca appeared, we jumped into it really in record time, because we were a cell culture facility, but we had to modify our facility. We had to incorporate additional equipment. We had to incorporate new personnel, additional personnel and human resources, get the technology transfer going for the process and for the analytics. But already in November, we were able to start the thawing of our first batch, which was a few months later to be exported to Mexico and into the capable hands of Sergio in Liomont. You can go to the next one, Sergio, maybe.
Sure. A brief word about Liomont. It's a privately owned Mexican company, pharmaceutical company established in 1938. What you're seeing here in the picture is our Ocoyoacac facility. We have 3 facilities. This is the one that is dedicated for aseptic filling and now specialized for biologics. We have 2 other. One is the traditional pharma and one is a small cell culture facility. In August, we started doing all of the, after signing the agreement, we started doing all of the modifications. This plant was capable of manufacturing pharmaceutical products. We have to reconvert it to biologics and to have the equipment with the capacity required for the massive amount of vaccines that were to be produced. This included building a BSL-2 laboratory, equipping all of the analytical lab with required instruments for the release of the drug substance and the drug product, cold chambers, ultra freezers, packaging line, etc., etc. Today we hire more than 200 employees plus the 60 that were already there to cover the 24/7 production. And also we purchased all of the supplies for the 150 million doses before the end of Q4 2020. The plant received approval for the vaccine manufacturing early this year, and the first batch was produced in March 2021.
Yes, and one of the things that we would like to present to you is our reflections on what we consider were what we think we have identified as critical success factors for this readiness. Actually, when you take a whole process such as this one that was managed in 9 months, you have to take into consideration that something was already there to be able to take it, to be ready, to be able to supply and to produce and meet this challenge. And in this sense, we started thinking about these success factors, and we broke them down into what was available in the private sector and what is available in our public sectors in our countries. And also in the third sector, such as the Fundación Carlos Slim. And in that sense, one of the key points we had is that both Leomont and mAbxience had a solid investment in infrastructure for many years, the brand new facilities, state-of-the-art, following the current GMP rules, to be able to produce both the drug substance and the drug product. And also, which is also important, that these facilities were adaptable to the vaccine requirement, because as you know, biopharma is one area, but vaccines has a completely different demand, particularly in terms of volume. And what is also interesting also that because of the way both mAbxience and Leomont operate, we are international, we follow international quality standards because we consider ourselves as global suppliers of our products. But that is from our particular point of view, but also we had all the contacts with our suppliers of the supply chain. That was also something central in the gigantic industrial challenge that this pandemic has brought to our countries. Because a lot has been said and done regarding the scientific aspects of developing a vaccine, but not less important is the industrial challenge, which is gigantic. Take into consideration that the whole worldwide vaccine supply is about 5 billion vaccines per year, and the COVID crisis required additional 10 billion. So really it means triplicating our vaccine capacity worldwide in a very, very short time. So it was also very important for us, and also Sergio mentioned in these last words, is that we had to hire additional people because we didn't have the full capacity. And something which is very important is that we were able to hire very quickly, but we were also able to incorporate those new people into a group that already had the experience and the capacity to work. Overall, when you look at the project today, more than 500 people are involved in the project. So that's from the private sector. But when you look at the government, it was something which we discussed with Sergio on many occasions. We were able to hire all those people because in our countries we have highly trained people, because we have public universities with a long-standing track record in education, with very high level of education. So there are a lot of people trained in life sciences, so we were able to incorporate quite quickly people to supplement our capacities. Also, our governments have offered or offer R&D incentives, so such as grants and some tax exemptions that allow both companies to establish within their own company R&D groups as well. And then from the practical point of view, from the bureaucratic point of view, the assistance of both the Mexican and the Argentine governments for the import and export of a lot of equipment and all the materials and all the drug substance that we exported to Mexico and was imported into Mexico was essential. And finally, of course, the interaction from day zero with the regulatory authorities, both in Argentina and Mexico, to guarantee the quality and the efficacy of the product, but also the standard of the manufacturing processes. But all of this would have been impossible if we hadn't had the assistance and the support and the financial support of the Fundación Carlos Slim that financed all our operations. As Sergio just said, we did all our purchases before the end of 2020. We had procured for the whole 150 million production, and that has to be financially supported. And at the moment in which we were all doing this, there was a risk in the sense that the outcome of the clinical trials was not guaranteed at that point. So the financial guarantee was offered by the Fundación Carlos Slim, which of course, they covered all the risks of salaries and materials that were involved in the production.
So one of the key messages that we want to convey is that this pandemic has shown that it is possible to have a regional collaboration, 10,000 kilometers distance, to produce vaccines for Latin America or for the region. This can also be extrapolated to other regions. To have, we think that having localizing the vaccine manufacturing adds a lot of benefits. But Latin America did used to produce many of the vaccines that are produced today until they decided, the governments, such as the one in Mexico, for example, decided it was more cost effective to buy the vaccines from outside. So production in Mexico stopped. And very few vaccines are produced in Latin America. This leads to a vicious circle where we can see the lack of infrastructure in many countries, the lack of expertise and experience in biologics manufacturing, and perhaps the lack of not sufficient skilled personnel. Also, we can see that this has a consequence because poor access to vaccines, since we were not able to manufacture them since the beginning. This project started already in August, while other countries started 3-4 months before. This has had a large impact in Latin America. It's amazing, but we in Latin America, we have 8% of the global population, 20% of the global cases, and more than 1/3 of the overall deaths because of COVID-19. So these are just some of the reasons why we need to have, or we strongly encourage to have local, regional production of vaccines.
However, yes, as Sergio was saying, what we do see, and I think this project and what we're presenting here proves, is that there is an infrastructure for regional production. There is an infrastructure available in several countries in Latin America. And by the way, the same as we were doing for Spanish-speaking Latin America was being done in Brazil for the Portuguese-speaking Latin America. So we strongly believe with Sergio that with the adequate policies and incentives, this infrastructure, the existing infrastructure, could be leveraged to obtain the benefits of self-sufficiency. that is, obtain a regional sustainability of vaccine manufacture, which would also guarantee access to the vaccines, which in turn would favor economic growth. Because if we see what we focused and we mentioned, and it's really very impressive, the amount of death and hospitalizations that this disease has caused, but also the impact on the Latin American economies has been tremendous, because of the stopping of the economies because of the lockdowns has been very, very strict in our countries. Of course, also having this this infrastructure, let's say, with a market, would help potentially develop the development or production of the vaccines that are required for neglected diseases, many of which are endemic to our region, such as dengue, Zika, chikungunya, Chaga disease, and those. But and of course, a faster response to pandemic outbreaks.
So this leads us to our final slide, and where we have extrapolated our learnings and our experience in this project to propose some ideas which might already have been discussed in other forums as a path forward towards a regional vaccine production program. First, it has to be a collaboration between the private sector and the public and the government. It is not only the government that will solve, we need to work together. And for this, it is necessary that there is a healthy pharmaceutical industry that also can gain, or that has already experienced in the production of biologics. It is important to strengthen the network of suppliers specialized in biologics, and also to encourage regional manufacture of critical supplies. How many times were we faced with the fact that some of the supplies were coming either from the United States or from Europe, and there were restrictions for exporting materials related to manufacturing of COVID vaccines, and we had to find our way out, and that put us into a lot of trouble. Also, companies should continue training the workforce and to make sure that any new technology can be quickly incorporated into the manufacturing. And companies should also think and be motivated to increase their investment in R&D. From the government side, of course, continue and stimulate the availability of training and universities. I think that Esteben has said already quite some. We have to strengthen the regulatory authorities and have expertise in biologics and vaccines, and work together from the beginning of any project with industrial partners. Of course, continuous investment in R&D from the government, both having incentives for private companies to invest in R&D, and also in government centers for research. And companies that are investing in this type of approach, in this regional approach, should have incentives so that they could be stimulated into continuing to do so. And also the simplification of the bureaucratic procedures that are related to this vaccine manufacturing, since it's a regional and it's of a strategic importance. That means make sure that we are able to work with the regulatory authorities to obtain the GMPs and the marketing authorizations, but also import and export of materials sometimes becomes difficult in many countries. And finally, how can we make this a virtuous circle? It is when we have a regional sourcing, long-term commitments from governments for the purchase at competitive prices of the vaccines that we manufacture in this hub, let's call it. And because it's Latin America, and because this is the way it is right now, it is important to have a third-party recognized ONG or a foundation, financial institutions, or government or multilateral institutions like PAHO that can guarantee the transparency in the production and commercialization of the vaccine process. So this is these are our thoughts on how, or some ideas on how we can start discussion on building a regional production or regional strategy. We know that CELAC, which is the Organization of Latin American Countries, but also PAHO are already discussing about this. And hopefully this COVID-19 pandemic will bring at least this positive action, a positive outcome of being self-sufficient in the vaccine manufacturing. So with this, we would like to conclude and to thank all our teams from mAbxience and Leomont. Okay.
Yes, and thank you all very much, and thank you for the invitation to this talk. I think we have some challenges, but we also have a few opportunities. Thank you very much.